deben de ser nosotros mismos.
Hey everybody, my name is Tyler Coates. Thank you all for sticking around. First I wanted to say Elle Fanning was supposed to come tonight, but she couldn't make it. She's under the weather. She's very sad to miss this, but we still have a great panel with the people behind this incredible show. First I want to bring out Eva Anderson, who's co-showrunner, executive producer, and writer. As well as executive producer Matt Tinker. Give you some time so you don't have to run down. Ben Lester, editor. And we have two casting directors with us tonight, David Rubin and Matt Lander. That was a long walk down that aisle. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you all on the show. I got screeners of it early and binged it in 3 nights. Just truly loved every minute of it. It's so funny, it's so heartwarming. And to kick things off, I want to ask all of you as a group, what was kind of your research process into the backdrop of the show, which is OnlyFans, and the people who make the content on it?
We got a lot of it from Ruby Thorpe, who wrote the novel. She started writing it in 2020 when she was like stuck at home during COVID with her kids, and was like, man, this online porn really seems to be blowing up. And so she wanted to write about, she says, like a story of a woman who was like both a Madonna and a whore, like a really good mom who was a sex worker. And so she spent a lot of time just really getting really deep, diving into OnlyFans, paying a lot of money to get women to talk to her who weren't chatbots, and then came to the writer's room once we started and gave us all of her research and said, this is everyone I was following, this is what they told me, and she was just an amazing resource. So that is basically was our in for because she spent so many years doing that, into how to learn about what the inside of OnlyFans seems like.
How about the rest of you? I mean, just depicting this world, I feel like it's very high stakes. I think that sex work is complicated, and the depictions of it have been historically, I don't know, very complicated as well. And there are so many people in that world who feel very strongly about their work. So I imagine the stakes of depicting that were very high. What was it like, the collaboration of figuring out the right tone?
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to be perfect. Working with David, we were coming off of Presumed Innocent. My search history is completely fucked. I had literally, researched if someone died while pregnant, if there would be 2 different blood types because of the baby and the mother, and I left that voicemail on my wife's doctor's phone. He never returned my call. Then we were going to OnlyFans, and I was like, oh boy, but it actually is a great question for David and Matt down here, because part of it is on the page, but there's sort of 3 versions of a show. There's the version you write, there's the version you film, and then, as Ben knows, there's the version you edit. And those can be really different in how they portray individuals, tone, the whole thing, but it really went from the page to this step of having Rico and Lindsay in the show. So I don't know if you guys want to talk to that.
Well, if I had $1 for every time I logged on to OnlyFans, I would barely have $1. But what we learned in the process of auditioning many people for those 2 roles, and some of whom did have a strong connection to OnlyFans, opened up a lot of information and also told us how to find contrast between the pair and all of that. But you could talk about the search that we did, because it was extensive.
Yeah, I think, Matt, we need to teach you about Google Incognito.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But yeah, I think we did a very extensive search, and it wasn't necessarily on OnlyFans, but through other content methods like X and Instagram and Reddit, to sort of find the people that were in the public eye and had those sort of profiles.
But then also we had a broader swath of contestants, really. There are musicians, Rico Nasty, musician who'd never acted before and had no real connection, I believe, to OnlyFans at that point. We did cut a wide swath because there was lots of options there. But I think we also hit an authentic nerve in the chemistry between those two people, because on OnlyFans there are those collaborations, and you completely buy those two having lived together and created something unique.
Lindsay originally auditioned for KC. Lindsay Normington did. She was brought in for that role, which was really, and she was so fantastic. But we also loved Rico so much, and we were like, what would happen if would Lindsay read the other part? And it was one of those perfect moments where they fit together perfectly once we had that formulation.
Yeah, Eva and our director, Dervla Walsh, were fantastic in coming to our casting office, and we were literally doing mixing and matching for half a day, trying to see how the combination would fly.
And then by the time it comes to me, I just see it on screen and it just feels right and so natural, and I just laugh at them and enjoy it being in their company. So I just kind of bring it out as feel as authentic as possible.
Absolutely. Eva, I'm very curious how, I imagine most of the season is pretty much set in stone by the time you're casting, but were there moments where you were watching people interact together, for example, Lindsay and Rico, just like their natural chemistry together? Does that ever go back into your writing when you know that you see something in a performer that kind of changes the way you maybe think of that character?
Absolutely. Actually, when I was hired and when the show was originally set up, Elle came as part of it, and so did Michelle, and Nicole Kidman was going to be on the show. But other than that, we hadn't cast most of the roles until we were well into the writing of the scripts. So realizing we had Nick Offerman as Jinx when we'd already been writing Jinx changed everything about that character for us, every word. When we cast Greg Kinnear as Kenny became a completely different beast than he is in the book, where he's very conservative and very scared. He's a very punishing, conservative, kind of a monster in the book. And realizing we had golden boy Greg Kinnear that we could do so much with. That really softened Kenny in a way and opened up all these avenues for his story. And then I think another person that really brought so much was Michael Angarano, who, because I think he was a Disney kid, he really likes to weaponize his cuteness and be really disgusting. And he himself came and was like, I don't want to cut my hair for the rest of the show, and I don't want to shave, and I might not wash my hair. He's like, I want to see how bad I can make Mark look by the end of the season. And that changed how we wrote Mark too, because now we knew that he was really going to lean into this kind of the punchability of Mark in a really gleeful way. So all the casting that happened affected our writing, because the show gets written on set and in post and in real time based on things like that changing.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that Elle and Michelle Pfeiffer were EPs as well as Nicole Kidman. So can you talk a little bit about that collaboration when you're working with people who are going to be performing the words that you're writing and following those arcs? And I guess David Kelly, who I feel like is responsible for some of the best television of my lifetime at this point. Like, what is it like to go in and know that you have someone who is an expert in television, and then you have these performers who are great at their job and their craft, and putting all of that together?
I can speak to that.
I'll talk to that a little bit. It sort of starts before the show itself, before we start filming, because there was this fever over this book. We were late to the party, David and I. By that point, Elle had read it. She was talking to A24 with her production company. Nicole's company and our company were looking to do a different project. And out of a panic, as I do when I get into a situation, I call my guardian angel, Nicole, and I say, I need help. I need to get this book. What can you do? And Nicole picks up the phone and she calls, over to A24. And Michelle raised her hand for Cheyenne. And so that was just, I think, a package that all these outlets couldn't resist. But also, the competition kind of was like, oh fuck, it made it easy to negotiate for the book. So their producing and their expertise started well before they got into these characters. And then once they do embody these characters, you just sort of have to trust that they're going to do something original with it. Cheyenne's nails. I mean, it's such a great team behind all these characters, but they came with their own ideas. The nails, the ad-libbing with the baby crying. It's a storyline throughout the whole season, but Michelle would just bring it into a scene that didn't have it necessarily before, and just keep that through line going. And they're great gardens of their own characters, and sort of just get out of their ways is the lesson I've learned.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what I love about this show, again, it is a comedy, but there is so much drama and heartfelt and kind of heartstring pulling moments. So I kind of want to talk about tone with you and balancing all of that, because again, I think that going from comedy to drama in a single scene sometimes is very difficult and difficult to pull off, both in writing and performing, and then putting it together as an editor. So kind of what are those conversations like kind of at the beginning, and by the time it gets to post and you're editing, how do you keep that through line going?
Poor Ben.
I mean, I didn't try and cut it as a comedy. It's not like this is the joke. If it's funny, it's funny. It's
right.
Part of the material, part of the scene that makes me laugh. But I think everyone came to it as a drama with funny bits. And, it's like I press play on the material and, find it gripping and funny and try and give it the best platform. So it wasn't like the jokes weren't the primary objective, I think.
Yeah, David, one of his big things on this show was like the characters don't think they're in a comedy.
Right.
They're reacting authentically, and this is just who they are. And so that really helped on set, that nobody was playing for a broad laugh, but Michelle's character is naturally such a freak that she's funny. She can't hold the baby, and they all are. And so that's just playing those people as authentic people with the kind of humanity that comes from the book, that doesn't judge these characters, just lets them exist as these weirdos, I think it helps the tone stay consistent.
I think the music helped a lot with the tone. That was finding the tone of the music, so it wasn't lending too much. It was never melodramatic, but it wasn't making fun of it either.
Yeah, Nathan McKay, our composer, did Industry, which is a great show, an amazing soundtrack, and he brought just a really interesting perspective to the
Eccentricity
show.
to it, I think.
A similar question for the casting directors. When you're looking for someone who can do sometimes something broad, but also very grounded and real, what is your process in figuring out who has that range and can handle it in such a small amount of time?
Well, for the most part, we know all of these actors that we're introducing to the team, so we have a sense of what their range is. But the thing that made this particular show different, I think, from so many others, is that there's so many series that have very specific parameters of the world of the piece. And when we began to read the scripts for Margot, it was a compendium of completely different worlds that we had to honor and represent in this piece, whether it's the very conventional Fullerton students that are roommates with Margot's in the beginning, or whether there's the world of OnlyFans, the working class world of the restaurant in which Margot works. All of those things are very specific and very different from all the other sort of planets in this story. And we were mostly focused on servicing that, so that none of these people, each of the people that existed in those particular worlds, wouldn't have worked in any of the other worlds. Very specific, so that when you are surprised that suddenly you're in another world in Margot's universe, it's a pleasant surprise, and you begin to learn something, because there's nothing standard about how that story progresses. Everything's a surprise, I think, in the world of this show.
And one other thing, foremost, before we start, I should thank you guys for coming out, and I'm sorry about Elle. I brought T-shirts with me, Jake's T-shirts. I'll just make up for that. I don't have enough for everybody, but we'll give away after this.
We have
Some hyper-specific exclusive merch.
Yeah. Woo! Thank you all. Part of where I'm going with this is television is such, you can feel so isolated watching television. A lot of the time you're on your phones. A lot of us, we rarely get a chance to watch these things with people. We've been really fortunate with this show. We've had screenings like this. We're at South by for the premiere. But before that, we hold, David and I, whether it's a thriller like Presumed Innocent or Big Little Lies, we hold screenings with friends and family who, I don't mean that in a way that's like, they're really nice. I mean, like, you're gonna get the truth about the piece.
It always comes out, the truth eventually.
We do these anonymous, questionnaires, and part of that is tone. There's some things that on the page or even in the edit, we're laughing and we're high on our own supply, and then you get into a screening and no one laughs. And you go, we gotta change it. But I think that's important because it can feel just like, or at least I subscribe to the belief that the art no longer belongs to us once it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for all this time that we're working in Eva as well in post, it's good to get it out there and to see what the reaction is. And then we played with it up till I think past our lockdown. We're playing with it for a long time,
right,
to get it the tone right.
Well, to speak specifically about the season finale, which we saw tonight, I'm very curious. I haven't read the book, so I'm not sure how much of the season tracks with the book's timeline. But when you're adapting something like this, and the best case scenario is that it runs multiple seasons forever and ever and ever, how do you plan where your characters are going to end up in this first season? What were those conversations like, knowing that there is the possibility of more stories for them to tell?
Yeah, we definitely had an idea of possibly some things we want to happen if there was a second season. But we knew that we needed to resolve this big question at the end of the season. It's like, does Margot get to keep her baby? I mean, the story starts with her having a baby, and we need to know that the baby is staying with her by the end, which is, I think, especially because it's a David E. Kelley special, that's why we go to court. And it was a 13-page scene, I believe. Like, it was
I think, Matt, you promised me no court when I signed up for it. No murders, no court. And I got to episode 8.
No court, you're gonna love it. No murder yet. That was really, David, over these years, I was like, how is he going to write another court scene that I haven't seen before? And all of the stuff that Paul McCrane does is on the page. I promise you that wasn't like, all credit to Dervla, she's an incredible director. The pacing and the madness, if you guys saw the cut before it was pared down, like...
Yeah, David said he was even too mad.
Yeah.
But that was all him, he's incredible. Paul.
But yeah, David was like, we had a meeting where David was like, we're going to court.
I mean, again, like that. I imagine just producing a courtroom scene, it has to be kind of exciting.
Oh, it's
because
so
we've
fun.
seen it. I mean, we've seen his own
It's
hits.
incredibly boring. Like
Right.
when you go to you research court stuff and you go to, if you're on jury duty,
Yeah, it's the
you want
worst.
to fall asleep. It's not exciting. And I think that's where David, time and time again, just finds these judges who have backs. Like Lace talks about his backstory for like half a page. And gives these, so you know who the gladiator is that you're going up against. And that's, I think, the secret sauce to all of his courtroom scenes. Everyone has their own story, and you all feel it come together.
Yeah, you hear all the backstory of the judge before he shows up.
This felt different to me from all the court scenes we've done, because often the judge is not the main character, it's the prosecutor, the defendant. This was the judge. The judge is someone you cut to who says sit down, stand up, but this was all about the judge, so it felt fresh to me.
The other crazy piece of trivia about that courtroom scene is we shot over 2 days. Morning, day 2, when it's gonna be all the close-ups, the baby says its first word. In the trailer, the baby starts saying "dada."
And doesn't stop talking.
Yeah, but like we get word like the baby is now saying "dada."
I had to cut all that out and cut
that
around
kid
it
out of it.
because we just
At
didn't want
first
it.
we're like, the baby's saying "dada." Will he say it on camera? Can we make him? You think he'll say it on camera? And then there was one take where he was just like "dada, dada, dada."
She said it to Mark.
Just
I was
running.
not supposed to say it to Mark.
He's
That's the
saying
whole
to
point.
everyone, he's running, he's like interrupting all the dialogue, he's just screaming it at Elle's face while she's trying to cry. It was so funny. But we got just enough data that we were able to use like strategically, where he says it a little bit to Nick and he says it a little bit to Michelle.
But it is the best baby acting in that scene.
Insane.
It's incredible. I didn't cut around a lot.
Where did you find? Were you guys involved? I don't even remember. They just suddenly were on set.
We take no credit for that.
Baby just showed up one day.
That's 2 babies that aren't related that play Bodhi. They're a boy and a girl that just resemble each other. And they were on every single day, so they got really attached to the cast, and that's why they started talking to them and
Oh
stuff.
my god.
Yeah.
The grabbing Jinx's beard and all those moments,
Yeah.
they're just there on the screen.
Elle went to his birthday party, like in real life. Like,
Oh.
Yeah, they
She's
still.
gonna be sending that kid birthday presents for life.
Oh yeah.
Well, I did want to open it up to a couple of audience questions. If we have anyone who wants to just raise their hand, and I can repeat the question.
I'll give you a shirt or a hat if you need.
There you go. You've incentive. Yeah, right here.
So how did you cast the baby?
The babies were extras. They came through extra casting. But the thing that's super crazy is that you need to, because there's two types of babies that you use. I know all about this now. There's 3-month-old babies who play newborns, who you only get to have for a very short amount of time, like a half an hour. And they're in the birth scene and the very beginning of when she brings the baby home. And the other babies are tiny 6-month-olds. So we had like 10 of those every day. Just hanging out in a trailer, playing with each other, hanging out with their moms, and with our amazing studio teacher, who was Elle's studio teacher. And so we would kind of narrow them down. We'd bring some babies out. Sometimes the babies would be just crying too much. They hated doing it. Sometimes they loved doing it, but their mom wouldn't stop schmoozing and let us babies out. But we ended up with these 2 super babies that we narrowed in on, River and Graham, and they started just they got really attached to Nick and Thadia and Elle. And would just Nick would just wear the carrier and walk around with them in between takes, and they'd fall asleep on him. And
When I visited set in Vegas, I was a bit starstruck by the baby.
Yeah.
That's the real baby, it's amazing.
What do you get?
This is a tough choice. There's no victims in Bloomingdale's hat. Or
Jinx
I
shirt.
don't know what size anything is in this bag. But there's a Jinx shirt. Sure. Good choice. It's a good
Ma'am, right down here in front.
Since the baby said daddy, is he now a SAG member? And do all
that's a
both
that's a-
babies SAG members?
What are the union rules around the child speaking on set?
We did credit the babies in the credits, which we weren't going to do initially, but we credit River and Graham in the
You're an
credits.
attorney? Are you coming?
Yeah.
Okay. I never thought about that.
It was in
Down
the
at
process
the-
to credit them, so yes.
Down again right there.
Thank you. I read in the credit that Dakota is also credited as an executive producer.
Yes.
That's this story. That's very cool.
Yeah, Dakota would be on set a lot and
Wow.
was involved in.
I did ask
No.
Dakota to come tonight. She's also sick because they were filming a movie together.
Oh, right, of course.
They were
Yes.
off in Budapest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dakota was on set a lot, and their production company is pretty incredible. Rubin
Is it
Pictures,
very
so
big?
They do a bunch.
Right here.
I was curious about Rico. I love her performance so much. How did that come to be with being in the show?
Yeah, so we found her on Instagram and reached out to her directly. It took us a few times to get a hold of her. She never acted in any way, shape or form before. I mean, she'd done her music videos, which were amazing. But when she stepped into our office, it was really the first time that she'd had material to study and to read. And from the moment she walked in, it was just so natural. When you see actors that haven't acted before, there's little nerves in the room, there's a little sort of discomfort, awkwardness, and she was just so organically herself that it really stuck with us throughout the process. I'm speaking for me and David there, and then when we shared her with the producers and writers, I think they fell in love at the same time that we did.
She also had the real actor's instinct to change what she was doing with each person we placed opposite her,
Yeah.
so that we knew that it was organic and happening in the moment, as opposed to something that she had practiced over and over again and locked into place, which is something you're not looking for in an actor. So it was thrilling to witness.
She was also really fun to edit because she would never really do the same thing twice. So we were finding a really natural performance. Everyone else was pretty locked in, but it was such fun. And you could pick a variety of amazing things and they would all be equally as good, but she gave us all those different choices.
All right, I'm gonna go back a little bit in the hat on the aisle. Yeah, right there.
Were there other big changes to the book that you didn't have to make in terms of tone, how it works as a TV show?
Other big changes to the book.
Yeah.
There's an omission, I guess, or not till the end, but
Yeah.
there's a love interest for Margot in the book named JB who functions more or less online, contacting her. Eva was the one that pointed it out to me. It's like, when you read the book, the heroin overdose, that's all in there, but you're not seeing any. And as soon as you're seeing a baby around a drug use, it's like, how could Margot take time to do anything else but land this plane for her family? You can speak more to that.
Just the baby is almost like, when you're reading on the page, the baby's like an abstraction. And so Margot is a little bit more reckless in the book. But once you see the baby, and you realize that if Margot does certain things that she would naturally do in the book, you would hate her, or you would lose the audience. So we had to have Margot be very much just the way she dealt with Jinx after he got back on heroin, and also just the way she couldn't kind of have a side romance at that moment because she might lose her kid. I mean, we all want Margot to find romance eventually, so don't count that out. But season 1, it just didn't fit.
This is so hard. In the white glass, yeah, right there.
Since this pilot or TV show is based on an IP, what came first? Were the actors attached at first, or did you as a showrunner come in and decide? I find it fascinating because the book was already well known.
Yeah.
And then how did it fall into place?
Yeah, so we alluded a little earlier, touched upon it. Like there was a bidding war for this book. David and I wasn't on our radar at all, and we had heard. We have a company of 4 people plus me. We're pretty small and lean, but there was word around town of this book, gaining interest. And if you read the book, the first page is talking to the reader, and she breaks forth. It's incredible, and Rufy's voice was clear as day from that first page, and I think everyone in our office read it in 24 hours. And once that happened, David Kelly's married to Michelle Pfeiffer, so that was easy to make that call.
Their first time working together, right? I believe she said that recently.
Yeah, it was, and also, can't believe I'm for Michelle, her look, Cheyenne's look says a lot about her, the way she dresses and all that. And early on in the book, Cheyenne, they're talking about implants and stuff, and I do get the call from Michelle that was like, I'm gonna ask you a question, we're never gonna talk about it again. Don't tell David. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? And she's like, do you think I need implants? And I was like, no, you're good. Like, we'll never talk about it.
The magic of TV, we can handle that.
Yeah. Bright red and the colors. But to finish the question, all those components, Michelle, Nicole, Elle, they were all around the book in different various ways. It all came together once we decided we all wanted to work together on it. The only person we really went out to in that core cast was Nick, who read the book first and really loved the book. And then I don't even think he read this. He was just like, I'm in. And
he was doing Death by Lightning in Budapest at the time, and he had his Chester Arthur sideburns when we zoomed with him, and he was like, I'll do anything to play Jinx. He's like, I'll get as ripped as I possibly can. How much time do I have? It's really funny.
And credit to A24. I mean, they put an offer on Friday and closed it by Monday, so they were aggressive.
You in the gray right here?
Oh, I was just gonna say, it looks like it was shot locally, like I noticed the chili place in Burbank and all that. Was that important to stay in LA?
Hugely.
Yeah.
I've pledged over the years to try to film everything we can here. We were talking to the LA Times a little bit about it, but Margot was supposed to film right when the fires happened in the Palisades, and it was pretty brutal. A lot of the people in Altadena, everyone was displaced, and the question did come from Apple, not from any place of, I don't think, any harm, but they were like, hey, like New Mexico, there are other places we could shoot this. And everybody, even those who were living out of their car because they hadn't found a place to live, was like, no, we want to do this show. We want to do it here. And we committed to that. We had air filters in the office and on the set. And it's just, when you sleep in your own bed, it makes all the difference for a lot of these crews. And many of whom we try to work with time and again. People from Big Little Lies, people from Presumed Innocent, from Margot. If you watch the credits for Presumed Innocent season 2, they're interchangeable with Margot. The DPs, Ben, they're all there. So it is important to me. I'm a third generation now content creator, if you will. My grandfather was Grand Tinker. He ran NBC for a while and had MTM. My dad was a writer, producer. So for me, it's the family business, and it was really sad to see a lot of those jobs leave here. And a lot of those people weren't saying I'm done with making stuff. They couldn't make stuff. There were no jobs. So I'm really happy that season 2 will be here.
And in Fullerton too, we shot in Fullerton, which is a really amazing town in Orange County.
Credit to the Fullerton College, because all these times you go to entities and you say, hey, we want to film there, and they go, oh my God, they look at the book synopsis, they know it. Fullerton, we had the teacher fucking a student, getting her pregnant. Fullerton College said, yeah, not only are you welcome here, but we're going to give all the money you give us for scholarships for the students. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'd say on top of all of that, Matt, it's selfishly for us, for me and David, it's so easy and fulfilling to cast out of LA because it's the home of acting, and we can get the best possible actors from the smallest role to the biggest role when we come here.
And our preference is always to have the actors in the room with us to be the benefit of everything that we know about this. We hear these scenes 1,000 times, and when actors come into the room and we're able to impart what we've learned over the months prior to their arrival, it's tremendous. And to ask actors to make those kind of decisions at home alone and decide which scene to send to us and all of that stuff, it's like putting a message in a bottle and never seeing it again. But in the room with us, it's a collaboration, and working with Eva and Dervla in the room was, exciting for them and so helpful for them. So that's going to stay.
That's right there, yeah, last one. What can we know about
Why not? Let's
season
have the
2?
whole pitch.
We started in Mexico. We're in Mexico now. No,
everyone's coming back. There's no one we're leaving behind. I don't know what the baby situation's going to be.
there's some fun new characters.
Yeah, I will say if you've read the book, so it's not spoiling anything, I don't think. Jinx has a family, as you heard in some of these episodes. I would bet that one of those family members is going to show up at some point. JB, the love interest, I would bet would be around in her life. I think, season 1 was about Margot sort of surviving, and season 2, as we see at the end in this last scene, is about sort of, can you have it all, and what does that mean? And Eva will answer that question in season 2.
And more Susie. We all want more Susie because she's awesome. So Susie's going to have a really interesting season 2, I think.
Amazing. Well, thank you again, and congratulations on this incredible show.
Thank you.
Thank you all for sticking around.